Amazon.com became the #1 seller of apparel items in the U.S. I would rather live on Earth. But, Stimmy Bill.
Stimmy Bill.
This is the Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Podcast, episode 14.
14?
Yeah, 14 already.
Wow.
I know. Well, that doesn't even include like the 8 episodes from the financial series. Isn't that wild?
We've had quite a few episodes. Let's see, when did we start doing this? Was it September?
October.
Or October of 2020?
October 2020?
So we're going on about 5-6 months now of this.
That's pretty crazy. We normally start off with a question of the day.
Question of the day.
Are you ready?
I thought it was cool how you posted all our previous questions of the day on your Instagram.
My Instagram stories. Yeah.
And we got to see what everybody else's answers were. And some of them were some of them, the consensus of Instagram was different than our consensus, which was interesting.
It was very interesting.
I didn't realize there's that many people out there that are actually wrong.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
I fear for the future of America because of that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we're going to hit you with another would you rather question. Are you ready, Josiah?
Yes.
That didn't sound very confident.
Yes. I'm ready.
Okay. Would you rather live on the moon or live on Mars?
Live on the moon or live on Mars? Well, I'm not an astronomer, so I don't know too much about the differences between the moon and Mars. As far as the potential sustainability of life, I would rather live on Earth. But not knowing much about the differences between the moon and Mars, I'm probably going to go with Mars. And here's why.
Interesting.
Elon Musk, as well as NASA and other smart people in that space, have projects, long-term projects, to be able to sustain life on Mars. So they think it's possible. I haven't heard of a project doing something similar on the moon. Have you?
Yeah, I have not.
And I think that's because looking at the stuff on Mars versus the stuff on the moon, Mars is more likely an environment that could sustain human life. Do I think it's possible or that we'll actually see it in our lifetime? I'm not sure. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical.
Okay. You know,
but given those two options, I think I would choose Mars. You remember that Matt Damon movie?
yes. That's actually a pretty good movie.
The Martian. I think that's the name of it. Mm-hmm. Poop and potatoes.
That's what you got from it, yes.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I think I would choose the moon. And here's why. Because I could travel back to Earth. I mean, from the rate I know, at the current technology level, you can only get to Mars and it'll take multiple years of travel. So,
okay.
Yeah, right. Are you going to travel back and forth?
So assuming Yeah, here's a different angle for the question. Assuming life is possible on either, there already is established
What do you mean by life, though? Like just setting up like a base?
technology as well as colonization being actually attainable on
Okay.
the moon versus Mars. So say that's already been established. There's already a colony on the moon. There's already a colony on Mars. I would,
See, I would choose moon. I would choose moon because I could travel back to Earth.
Yeah, that's a very compelling argument. The moon is a short trip away. Mars is a little farther. It's a couple year journey, right?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was something like 4 years or something. Wouldn't that be wild? You know, people would travel the world previously without airplanes and without the quickness of speed that you can travel now. And, you know, to even get across from East Coast to West Coast was several months journey. So could you imagine something like 4 years journey? I couldn't.
So we're a little bit off. So the moon takes about 3 days for a spacecraft to reach the moon from Earth.
Huh.
3 days.
That's not bad.
Not too bad. A short jump from Earth. Mars, though, approximately 7 months.
Oh, 7
So-
months.
so
I
it's
thought
a-
it was 4 years.
Yeah, it's under a year, but still, 7 months is a significant amount of time. So if you're choosing to live on the moon, that's kind of a long-term commitment. Versus Mars, yeah, you could.
You mean the other way around?
Yeah, I do. If you're choosing to live on Mars, that's a long-term commitment because round trip is 14 months. If you want to go to the Mars, then come back. That's over a year of your life just floating in space.
Yeah, it would take a...
Bring some video
wow,
games.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, if you were to travel there and then turn around and try to travel right back, it would take over a year.
That's why I guess in the movies they go into their hibernation sleep pods.
I thought that was that Interstellar or was that a Martian?
I don't know. Matt Damon's in all of those, right? And the moon only
think
3 days.
maybe.
So you definitely have a compelling argument being able to hop back and forth between the moon and Earth.
I feel like it'd be a cool, like, I don't know, destination where, like, you know, if I were to go and live in another country right now, like, let's say on a different continent, I could still travel back to America, to Alaska, and, like, hang out. Versus if I'm going months away, you're not coming back.
You're committed.
Yeah, for a long time.
Absolutely. I haven't been able to check it out yet, but I know the little rover that just landed on Mars. Was it earlier this month?
I don't remember.
Early March, I think. A new rover just landed there. I think it has some sort of live feed, or they're working on like Google mapping it so you can watch some videos of rolling around on Mars.
That would be cool.
Yeah, you'll have to look for that later.
If we can find it, we'll link it down below.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I think we hit that question on the head. Interesting though, we kind of had different thought processes on which one we liked to live on.
So I would choose Mars as things are right now because I think it's more possible and more attainable for a colony to be there, for human life to be feasible on that planet versus the moon. But my answer changes assuming that if that's not the question, feasibility. If colony is attainable on both, I'd probably go with the moon. Da
Yeah,
moon.
I think I would just choose the moon from the get-go.
I've heard it's made of cheese.
made of cheese.
You ever seen that?
I think you can shrink it too, right? You just need your shrink ray gun.
Yeah. You need some minions.
Minions.
You ever watch Wallace and Gromit?
No.
They run out of cheese one day, so they build a spaceship and go to the moon to get some more cheese.
Oh my goodness. Stop.
It's one of those old
That's cute.
claymation shows.
Oh, those claymation
Wallace
shows
and
were kind of cool.
Wallace was a guy and Gromit was I believe his dog, if I remember right.
Didn't know that. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Well, this is episode 14. And if you want to check out episode 13, you definitely should. Because we went over last episode about being realistic with your goals and knowing when to adjust or when to quit your goal. And so you're like, what? You quit your goals? Well, yes. But you need to check out our last episode, episode 13, to find out what we recommend in that regard. Or how we think through quitting a goal or being realistic with our goals. This episode, however, we've got a couple segments. One's about interesting news, all related to business. And then also, we're going to talk about the
Stimmy Bill.
Stimmy Bill.
I don't know why, but I've been seeing on social media, people have been calling it the Stimmy. What you gonna do with your Stimmy?
Stimmy. Oh my gosh.
Is because the attention span of America is apparently shorter than the word stimulus. Which in the scheme of things, that's not that long a word.
Goodness.
And honestly, it's only 2 letters longer than Stimmy.
Oh, yeah, I guess if you spell it out like that.
It appears a lot shorter, but Stimmy's only 2 letters shorter.
Well, that's always interesting to see what new words people come up with or little nicknames for things.
All right.
Oh, okay, interesting news. Let's start it.
It's tax season, right? So traditionally, April 15th is the tax deadline. Thank you, Overlord IRS. Last year, due to COVID stuff and things, they extended it. I think they extended it all the way to maybe June. I don't remember exactly. Just yesterday or today, it appears that the IRS is going to extend it this year as well to mid-May.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's official or almost official, but it looks like it will be extended again to May 17th. Slight side note with this.
What was it last year again?
Like
July something or June something?
I think it was June.
It was more.
It got extended quite a bit. I think they extended it twice. They first extended it about a month, like what is happening right now, and then they extended it a second time.
So instead of April 15th.
Yep, April 15th is the traditional deadline.
Well, I guess this year at least it's only a month, but
Yeah.
still.
Which I don't mind, because I just submitted all our paperwork to our CPA last week.
Hey,
Which
that's still ahead of time.
is still about a month prior to the deadline, but that makes me
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because he
Doing it in
needs,
March,
he
is that
needs
what you're saying?
time to review the paperwork, tell me what I did wrong, what information I didn't provide him,
Automatically already did something wrong.
prepare it, and then file it, etc., etc. And yeah, I would like to know sooner rather than later what I owe.
Right.
But related to that, I used to do our taxes myself using TurboTax or some softwares along those lines. And that was feasible when our financial situation was simplistic. Pretty much just W-2.
Yeah.
Plug and play. Not too much extra stuff to worry about. But as we've gotten older, and now that we have...
Older and wiser? Is that what you're getting at?
No, not wiser. I have not gotten wiser. I've come to an understanding of how little I actually know.
Oh my goodness.
No, our financial situation has gotten more complicated, as well as being a business owner that adds an extra level of complexity, especially when trying to write off as much of that business-related expenses as possible within what's allowable. So, yeah, last year and this year, we've worked with a CPA to help us with that. And I think it's been worthwhile.
Most definitely.
So that's something that I've learned in the past few years. Just because you can do something kind of okay, or figure out how to do something kind of okay, doesn't mean that's always the best way to do it and the cheapest option.
What was that other example you gave me one time where I think it had to do with the car, or maybe changing the oil or something?
Changing your oil in your car.
Or for our personal experience.
Yeah, I changed the oil in our vehicles a couple times.
I think it was good to learn.
If you've ever done it, it's really not that difficult. But
and it's good to know.
I was
good to have.
I was figuring it out on my own. Every car is a little bit different. A little bit different. And so I may have saved some money. We could have taken it to Jiffy Lube or Midas or whatever, and $50 to $80 seems to be the average range for an oil change. They would have done it in under an hour. I would have spent maybe hour and a half getting that done, $50 to $80. Instead, I probably spent 6 hours and maybe half that money. No, probably about the same, because I hadn't done it before, so I had to invest in some tools. I had to watch some YouTube videos.
Always the tools.
I had to gather all the supplies, being oil and a filter and a drip pan, et cetera, et cetera. And I think in our garage I still have that used oil.
Ew.
Yeah. So I still haven't finished changing the oil, technically. I got to take that to the dump, to the proper disposal area. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time learning, and I don't regret learning that new different skill. And I think I did a mediocre job at it. I didn't break anything. It probably could have been done better. But after doing that a few times, I kind of realized, I've been told by many people, changing the oil yourself, you save a lot of money. But I kind of decided it wasn't really worth the time I had to put in.
Right.
Oh, and then the other thing is I spilled some oil in the driveway. So I had to figure out how to clean that up.
Goodness.
So I kind of discovered and learned the lesson of sometimes it is actually better and is absolutely okay to hire someone to do it for you. I could have spent those several hours doing something else. Now, at the time, I enjoyed that. That was fun. I did a couple other small projects on some of our vehicles, learning some different things about how they work and all that.
So I think at that point it was more like maybe you consider it like a hobby, like a learning process of just like, hey, this is worth to invest a little bit of time and money into tools to learn how to do this skill. But then our season of life changed. And I just remember you being like, yeah, we're just gonna go pay for it to be done. Which is fine. Because that was the other thing. That season of life, I can't, it was just shortly after you had finished them. Well, not shortly. I guess it was another 6 or so months later. And by the time it was even just 6 months later, you were so much more busy at work and whatnot, in the military. And you were just like, no, I can't do this. I can't think about it. I can't waste the time on that. Not waste. It's just more, yeah, you were already so pulled in multiple directions.
Yeah, I didn't have a desire to spend my free time doing that when we could instead drop the vehicle off somewhere, and while we run some errands at the grocery store, they do it, and then we just go pick it back up. Way easier.
Right, or for you at that time, I think it ended up being just like, I drove the one car that needed to get dropped off. I would take it, then trade cars the next day and do the other car, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you could focus on getting your work done that you needed to get done while this thing was taken care of.
Yeah.
By somebody else.
I think that was a very valuable lesson that I learned, especially as we own our own business and are exploring other entrepreneurial things and stuff and things.
Things and stuff and things.
It's okay, and in many cases beneficial, to hire out. Get someone who is an expert. Yes, you will probably pay more money, but you will save time and it will be done correctly.
Why do you think taxes is a good example of this?
Taxes is a good example because, and I've heard this
in our situation.
Yeah, I've heard this. One, the complexity of our current tax situation. If we still just had W-2 related income and not much more than that, I would just do it myself.
Right.
There's TurboTax and softwares like that where you don't need to know anything. You just plug the numbers in and bing, bang, boom. But our situation is now more complicated than that. And we've gotten to, we want to ensure that we are saving as much as we can tax-wise. There are lots of different laws and benefits to being a business owner. And so we want to make sure we take advantage of those so that we have as much money as possible to continue growing those businesses. And that's why the IRS and the government has lots of write-off, etc. opportunities to business owners, because businesses boost the economy, etc., etc. So they're encouraging that. So want to make sure it's done right and that we maximize the tax savings there. I've heard,
and well, you should explain, because it's not just our personal taxes at this point; it's also business taxes, which is a whole nother ball game.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I've heard, yes, you pay money to a CPA to file those taxes, and then you, in addition to that, still have your tax obligation to the IRS, whether it's positive or negative, refund or payment. I've heard in many cases, by paying a CPA, it's common to save at least that much on your taxes. So you might not actually be losing that however many $100s it is you pay to the CPA for that service. Because if they're good at their job, they should find at least that much in additional savings.
Right.
Yeah. So
'cause that's the other goal at that point, isn't just to get that item taken care of, like your oil change. The goal at that point is to also save like tons of money throughout the year.
Yeah. Plus the time you save. I don't want to have to read through all the tax law.
Yeah, no.
That's not my desire. So
learn all
there's
the
somebody
discounts and whatnot.
that apparently enjoys that. Hire them. All right, next, moving on.
Next slide.
Next slide. Amazon.com. Huge fan of Amazon. Because we use their platform to reach customers and sell stuff.
And we might buy stuff off there.
And we enjoy shopping.
Plenty.
They continue to innovate and capture a large portion of the market because what they do well.
And
Amazon
they have great shipping rates for Alaska.
Yeah, Amazon just recently, as a result somewhat of the year 2020, became the number one seller of apparel items in the U.S. Prior to that, it was Walmart.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is interesting. I don't think of Walmart as an apparel store. They certainly have a large section of apparel, but it maybe has only been a few times in my life that I've bought clothing at Walmart.
I wonder... Wow,
what do I think of as a clothing store more often? A place like Kohl's or JCPenney.
Even Target.
Those other ones at the mall. What are Old Navy? Old Navy, literally, that's all they do is sell clothes. I think of places like that as
apparel stores.
But yeah, Walmart has been, I'm not sure for how long, number one in apparel sales. You think about their clothing department,
wild.
They do probably have more clothing in their clothing department than your average Old Navy.
I wonder if it has to do with like staple products like undergarments, socks, other random things like that, uniforms.
Now, I think shoes might be included in this statistic as an apparel item.
That could be huge.
So
that would be interesting to know what categorized that. How did that happen?
But somewhat as a result of the last year of government mandated shutdowns and quarantining, et cetera, as we've talked about before, online shopping has increased a huge amount. Amazon benefiting a huge amount from that. That has resulted in Amazon becoming the number one in apparel sales because it became difficult to go out to a local retail and physically buy clothing because some people were uncomfortable with it. Something that we've run into a lot is the fitting rooms were closed. So that's the main benefit to going in person to buy clothing versus buying it online. And that benefit for at least the majority of stores we attempted to buy clothing at was no longer there.
Well,
we had to go to the store, pick it out, take it home, try it on, and then if it didn't fit, take it back to the store to return.
Yeah.
Now with Amazon, it's basically the same but easier. You click a few buttons, you order it, they mail it to you. It doesn't fit, you click a few buttons,
you mail
and
back.
you get a refund real quick. You really don't have to leave your house.
Well, and the other problem was, I know at least for like Target and a bunch of other stores, not only were some of them just like closed, but some of them weren't allowing returns at all for like 3 months or something like that. So that was a big deal too.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
So I don't know if that also made it difficult for people to buy clothing in store. Though Walmart it has a lot of stuff online.
Yeah. So I recently just got into and have been dabbling in some apparel categories on Amazon as a seller. Found a few bigger brand items, Under Armour, Nike, and those have been doing pretty well. So I'm looking forward to exploring those categories a little bit more. So that excites me that Amazon is now the number one, because that tells me there is lots of opportunity for me as a third-party seller.
Well, that's also, I wonder if it also affects the idea of trust and buying clothing off of Amazon. I know for me personally, years ago, I'd be like, no, I'm not buying clothes off of Amazon. That's how you get like weird garbage that's like not, no, I can't wear this. Versus I wonder now, more people have tried it, used it, found great things that they can wear. And so now they trust Amazon. They're like, okay, yeah, I trust the products on Amazon to be good, at least to wear.
Yeah, that very much could be part of it. Okay. Next news article. Saw an article talking about the future of the work environment in America. And this is really interesting to me, and I thought about this probably about halfway through last year. What happened in 2020 is a lot of companies and work environments that were able to sent their workers home to work from a virtual office. So they took their work laptop home. They sat at home in a office or on their couch in their pajamas, whatever it might be, and they still completed largely the exact same work. They still had largely the same meetings, the same criteria, the same requirement for 8 hours a day or whatever it might be. But yet, they had more flexibility and no commute any longer. And I thought many, many months ago that this might cause a shift in what normal work would be like in the future. For many years, this isn't a new concept. For many years, different industries have done this, where you could work at home.
Especially techie ones.
Yeah, I know computer science for sure being one. The type of work that they do, usually individualistic on your own computer, then plugging into a larger puzzle in a virtual way, lended itself very well to allowing workers to work from home. But I think this is the future for a lot of America, for a lot of companies. Now, there definitely are some industries that this just won't work. Look at manufacturing, industrial, retail. You can't have your cashiers working from home virtually. Construction. But just recently, Ford, the American vehicle company, told approximately 30,000 of their employees worldwide, not just in America, worldwide, 30,000 employees who have worked from home that they can continue to do so indefinitely.
Wow.
And with that, they can have flexible hours as approved by their managers. So Ford is acknowledging that this is the new norm for our work environment. This isn't just a temporary due to pandemic regulations and precautions. This is going to be moving forward common. And here's what I think is interesting that benefits both the workers as well as the companies. Number one, overhead for those companies. They no longer have to have massive office buildings. If a big portion of their workforce is able to work from home, they don't need to lease that office space. Or maybe they don't need to have offices or cubicles for their workers. They just have a few meeting rooms.
Right.
For when it is necessary for workers to come in, they just have some conference rooms. But when you need to work in your own little office, you just go home.
Right. Or even some sort of like temporary, like here's some general desks for anybody to use in case like something's up at your house and you have to come into work.
Yeah, so
Huh.
I
Didn't
think
think of
there's
that.
potentially a lot of financial savings and benefits for companies to do that. And then there's also benefits to the employees. They now have, at least as Ford is doing, the ability to have flexible hours. Maybe they don't want to work from 8 to 5 every day. Maybe they want to get up a little earlier or get up a little later or do 4 hours, take a couple hour break, go to their kids' soccer practice, and then 4 hours. They are allowing that flexibility as long as it doesn't affect your work productivity and your manager's cool with it and all that. So that's a benefit for workers as well. They now have the flexibility of location. If you are working virtually, you can now work from anywhere in the world
Oh, sure.
as
Right.
long as you have that internet connection or
I mean, maybe
cell service you can call into the meeting.
that's one point I did it. I mean, you might not have the answer for this, but it's just a thought I had. If more companies go to this regard, especially like a big company like this, are they going to start paying or offering some sort of deal on internet for people, especially those who are using internet from their home? Like I mean, we know people, very few, but we do know a handful of people that don't pay for internet at their house or don't have the proper, let's say, laptop or cell phone or whatever to do whatever they need to get done for work. Like that's all normally at their work office.
Yeah. I've thought about that too. If your company is giving you the option and or requiring you to work from home, there ought to be some additional benefits to that because they are ultimately saying, we used to provide you a space to work. Now you need to figure that out on your own. And here's some things that I've kind of thought about. One, I think most every company that's done that provides a laptop.
Sure.
You're not going to have to use your personal computer. There's going to be a work system. But finding a space in your home that's quiet, distraction-free from your family, roommates, whatever it might be, that's a difficulty that many people worldwide have had to figure out over the course of this last year. Not everybody has an empty room that they use as their office.
Or even part of a room, you know?
Yeah, or even an empty basement or whatever it might be. And then, yeah, the internet issue and some other little things that come along with that. And I don't know.
I mean, I know
I
the
think
internet
it's
is specifically a little bit more unique in Alaska. At least in the lower 48, it's you pay for speed versus up here you pay for data.
yeah.
So that's slightly different, but still, like if you normally at home in the lower 48 are paying a lower speed, but obviously that could affect your work productivity or whatever you're doing for work.
Yeah.
That could.
I think that's
cause
something
issues.
that companies like Ford should investigate, what additional benefits they offer to people that work from home. Because I think there are additional costs that those people have to absorb.
Sure.
But the first thing that I'm pretty sure is accurate is when you're working from home like that consistently, there's some tax write-offs you can do. You
Really?
can probably write off a portion of your internet bill. If you're using a certain portion of square footage only for work stuff, you can probably write that off. I know that's the case for business owners, but I think as an employee in a work from home situation, I think some of those laws extend to you as well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that too. So that would make sense because for us we get a fairly good deal because we own the business and are running it. But yeah, you make a good point. If you're part of a business but don't own it and you're now working from home, can you write that stuff off? on your personal
Yeah,
taxes.
I mean,
So yeah.
That's why you hire a CPA. But I believe that's something that people in that situation should be eligible for. And I think there are some cons to this. I think there is a degree of benefit to the workers and the company from physically interacting with coworkers on a daily basis. Yeah, there's always going to be Coffee Pot John, who literally just stands at the coffee pot all day distracting everyone.
Or Michael Scott doing his 20 trips to the water.
20 trips to the water dispenser.
But
20
Michael
little
Scott made a
checks on the employees.
very valid point, though. He was able, by doing that, to check more frequently without it being peculiar or odd to check on his employees. Now, do you need to do it 20 times during the day? I don't know. But there would be something to say of make it more like a college campus in some regard, where some people, you have class, like, maybe you only have classes 3 days a week, or you only have a couple classes or a couple meetings or whatever you want to call it in a business setup, a couple meetings or whatever during the week, these certain days, or these are your come in hours between this time and this time. And you're supposed to clock in like hours as you come in physically to the office.
Okay.
And yeah, there is something to say about the bond that you have with your teammates. But there are certainly jobs that you don't need that, or you don't even really interact with other people. Though it is sad, like maybe those would work outside of that. I mean, people have been doing this for a long time, though. Even before the pandemic, people have been using, what's it called? They're like customer service that you call in. Now, it's not just international, right? We always hear people talk about like, I got somebody in a different country, and it can be hard to, not that that's bad that they're in another country, but it can be hard to explain. Like, we were on the phone with a customer service person, and they were like, we were trying to tell them something about DC, like Washington, DC. And they were like Washington, DC. And so they kept looking up the state Washington and looking up like DC, like some sort of like district there. We were like, no, like, I don't think you understand, which is fine. It's just that they don't understand. So, I mean, I'm not talking about that. I rabbit trailed, but customer service here, even in America, I've known people that have been customer service people online from their home since like years ago. Like when I was in high school, I had a couple friends that had siblings that worked from home like that. So it's just interesting dynamic that's now more jobs are shifting that way.
Yeah, so what I was getting at is, depending on your job and the amount of interaction that job requires with a team of people, not being in person with that team, you can lose value. You lose some creativity. You lose that bond that's going to help that team work together in a better way. So I think there are some downsides to consider in that way. And with that, maybe that's why Ford is only telling 30,000 of their employees. Maybe those 30,000 jobs they've deemed, there's no downside to these people not interacting with the others on their team. I don't know how many people Ford employs. I'm sure it's way more than 30,000.
Sure.
So they've probably determined there's these other teams that they need to be physically in each other's lives every day at work because of how that benefits the team and the project.
Here's a question for you.
The answer is no.
Well, it's not a yes or no question, so I guess wrong. Big companies can certainly do this, and a lot of their jobs could be more geared towards something like that in regards to sending people home to work. How many small businesses do you think this will actually affect or take place in? I almost lean to where I'm going to start answering my own question, but I want your opinion too. I think some of them might lean towards that, or it's going to open up more business opportunities for people to work from home and work for multiple businesses, if that makes sense. Like as a contractor, like these other businesses hire this type of worker out that can all be done from home. Does that kind of make sense? I'm not sure.
So you're wondering how this shift will affect small businesses versus large businesses like Ford.
Sure, because I feel like more large businesses, you start to get, as you grow bigger, your jobs that you seek or people you seek to hire get more and more specialized instead of doing a plethora of things. Not that there aren't specialists in a small business. I'm sure there are. But like when you start to have a big business, the goal at that point is to spend less money and make more money doing the exact same thing.
I think it comes down to what the business is. There's not a blanket. It doesn't work for a business of this size versus a business of that size.
Like a fish processing place.
We have several team members that help us with different things that we pay mostly on a commission basis. But we don't have a warehouse or an office that they come to. Some of those team members are completely virtual. They don't even live near us. And there's a large amount of benefit they can add to the business from a virtual capacity. Kind of think admin work on a computer using internet. There's a lot with an e-commerce business that needs to be done in that regard. And the person we currently have working for us, I've never even met her in person. Then we have some other people in a more local status that we meet with around town or at coffee shops, but we don't have an office that they ever come to to clock in and do work. So for our business model, that works really, really well. And in fact, we save a lot of money by not saying you need to come to our office space to clock in and do this work, because that's not necessary. But yeah, if you have like a sandwich shop, that's not an option. If you have a manufacturing plant, that's not an option for the most part.
Sure, like most of your employees will still be in person, but I'm wondering how that at the sandwich shop or at the manufacturing place, there are a handful of jobs that don't require any sort of like physical, like they're not actually doing like the putting together at the manufacturing place or the putting together a sandwich at the sandwich shop. There's some behind the scenes things that have to happen.
I say, yeah.
That you think that they might start leaning towards hiring somebody else out. That is, I would almost feel like the way it's going to affect small businesses is it's going to be the business owner or manager or whatever starts hiring a contractor to do more of those things online. That it's going to be people starting a business from home to do completely online work for them.
A per job contract, not a hourly or salaried wage.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhat, but
for the small business.
We worked at Panera Bread for a little bit. And yeah, they're not a small business, but I think their structure probably isn't too different from a small business sandwich shop of a similar nature. Pretty much everyone that was there needed to be there. And it was really just probably the owner. I don't know who the owner was, but the owner was never there when I was around. He probably came in from time to time to check on things. And I believe the managers that were physically there were the ones who probably submitted orders for, we're running low on this ingredient. And then, I guess you could say that payroll and HR and things like that weren't physically in the building. So, there's maybe one or two jobs.
It would just be interesting to know now with the internet and I mean, the internet's been around a while, but now with more,
The internet is brand new.
I mean, more,
You heard it here
more
first.
of our jobs and more of our businesses rely on that. It would just be interesting, or can be done like work-wise over the internet. Just be interesting to see how it changes even small businesses. Because you hit a huge nail on the head there with Ford. But, like, some people don't even have 30,000 employees. They have, like, 100 employees or less.
Yeah. So it'll definitely be interesting right after whenever the government declares the pandemic is over, what corporate America, 'cause that's really what we're talking about, mostly corporate America.
Like, do you think they'll continue to do this?
How they react, how many will go the way that Ford says they are going, and how many will go back to what they had before. Well, let's move on and talk about the Stimmy Bill a little bit. Stimmy.
Stimmy Bill.
First thing I want to mention is the stimulus bill. Everyone thinks of the $1,400 per person. That's a very, 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 very small part of the bill. And I'd encourage you to look into the bill as a whole and see what else is in there. There's, a bunch of stuff that you could argue is related to COVID pandemic stuff. And argue is...
I think it just depends on the person.
If
you look at the bill and see so much more things rather than like what people are just talking about, this $1,400. There's so much more in there, and I mean, it's going to be a personal endeavor to whether you find some of those things being good, some of those things being bad. Why it could be good or bad to you that they're even in the bill, but ultimately, you just need to understand, like, this bill isn't just about those $1,400 stimulus checks. There's so much more in there.
Yeah,
and so if you have a thought process and you go read it and you think something is good or bad with it, or you don't like the way things are going, or you like the way it's going, contact your representative.
Yeah, I
encourage you to get involved.
I think the point I wanted to make is, regardless of your political views, if you look at the stimulus bill, there is stuff in there completely unrelated to COVID-19, to the state of the economy because of shutdowns and things like that. Completely unrelated. We're talking about like money to build bridges.
Right.
That's in there. So take a look and know what's going on. Be informed. But moving on, so many Americans are currently this week or will be soon getting a check, getting a direct deposit, or getting a prepaid Visa card.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the other way is.
Yeah. Well, here is, we had our little financial series in January of this year, 2021. And taking some of the principles from that we talked about, I wanted to apply it to this stimulus check and talk about how we would recommend using that money. Because I think there's a lot of Americans, and I sell on Amazon. So I've seen random spikes in my sales that happen to coincide with previous stimulus checks. So I know there's a lot of Americans that take that money and go into their Amazon wish list and click buy all.
Right.
So I want to encourage you to think about what to do with that money before going straight to your wish list and going on a spending spree. So number one, we would say, if you are in financial trouble, maybe you lost your job, maybe something else is going on, maybe some medical bills, pay your bills first. That's the first thing to do. Pay your mortgage, pay your rent, pay your electric, pay your medical bills, whatever it might be.
Especially in a certain order. Pay all of your shelter things first and things that keep you fed and clothed. So not just definitely pay your mortgage, But don't forget about your electric, gas, all the other things related to that, to keep your electricity on and the heat, or I guess AC in some places, running. So you're not paying your mortgage and going, oh yeah, now I can't cook anything because everything is shut off because I didn't pay that bill either. Pay those bills first.
Yeah, and I think...
And then clothes and food.
I might be wrong about this, but I think that's kind of the intent of the government handing this money out. Is, people are financially hurting, we need to give them money. Well, what does that mean? That probably means they need help paying their bills, not their Amazon wish list needs to be fulfilled. Now, there are benefits to the economy for buying stuff. But
right.
we'll get to that.
You need to focus on your family.
So then, number 2, sheltered. If you're not having issues with your bills, no issues there, look at your debt. And don't just pay the minimum payment for that month. Consider putting all or most of the money towards debt so you can pay it off quicker and be free from that burden. We're talking about credit card debt. We're talking about personal loans, student loans, your car payment. Many, many people have a car payment. Don't just pay that $500 in March. That's the minimum. Why don't you put all that money plus $500? And look at that. That's $1,900. You're that much closer to actually owning that car. You realize that you don't actually own that car until you get the title from the bank. That's the bank's car, and you're borrowing it from them.
If you want to know how you can pay off your debt quickly and why you should, especially regarding a car, check out our episodes from the finance series. They're all labeled. It's episodes 1 through 8. And we go over all of why you should be out of debt, how to save, how to do all those things.
And I would say same thing with your mortgage. If you have a home that you've purchased, put that extra money towards your mortgage. You'll be that much closer to actually owning your home. You realize that. If you have a mortgage, whose home is that? The bank's. Moving on. Third thing you can consider doing with your stimulus check is save it. If you don't have an emergency fund, put it towards that. As Kelly just said, we have a couple episodes talking about savings, emergency funds, savings goals. Emergency fund or a vacation fund for the future, or towards a big purchase that you might need to make in the future, like a car. And then the next thing I wanted to touch on is use that money to create more money. Buy a nice printer with that money and start printing money. The government does it.
No.
The government did that to give you this check.
He's joking. Do not do that.
I'm joking. That's probably criminal activities.
That is criminal
but
activities.
What I'm talking about is you can stash that money into an IRA, into a retirement fund. You can use it to invest in someone else's business. You can use that to start a business. Our current Amazon e-commerce business, I started a couple years ago with about $100.
It might have been $200.
$200.
It was
under
low
$1,000, under $500.
It was definitely it was either $100 or $200. It was very
And
small.
as of right now, that business is providing enough income for us to pay the bills. Now we didn't
and beyond, but
we didn't withdraw money from that business for quite a while as we were growing that $200 and investing in more and more inventory. But something to think about. You don't need $20,000. You don't need $100,000. You don't need $1 million to start a business.
Might not even need $1,000.
$1,400. You can do a lot with that if you have dreams of owning a business or even just like a little side hustle. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is if you are satisfied with where you are financially, all those categories we just talked about. You don't have bills. You don't have debt. All your savings funds are peachy. Your monthly, yearly, whatever income, you're totally satisfied with. You have no needs or desires to increase it. Yeah, go ahead. Spend that money on a trip, an experience. Go to your Amazon wish list. Buy the stuff I'm selling. But if you're not there, I would recommend you look at other areas of your life to spend that money on, particularly if you have some sort of debt.
I think too, I would encourage, if you are at that point that you just mentioned, Josiah, if you're happy where you are financially and you are willing to spend it on your wish list, I would consider, sure, spending it on Amazon, that's fine, but I would consider splitting it up. Maybe, unless it's a big ticket item that you want to spend an entire $1,400 on. But I would suggest maybe splitting it up. Maybe shop small, go to a small business, maybe shop online with some of it, maybe go to a big retail organization with it as well. You don't have to spend $1,400 just in one place. You could break it up. And you could break it up amongst a lot of it. Maybe you're you know what? I think I'm good financially, but yeah, that would be kind of nice to just set a little bit aside in savings, an extra savings amount. We'll set a little bit towards, this bill because, sure, great. More towards the mortgage or more towards my electric for next month. And then, I want to spend an extra $100 on this fun item. You can also split it up that way, too.
Absolutely. So with that, we've been babbling for a while.
Babbling.
I think we'll probably wrap it up. You have anything else to add?
Check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. Like Josiah mentioned before, I did some fun story questions the other day, and I think I might do it again. But I think I'm gonna get together some other questions to ask you guys because that was very interesting to learn what the people who follow me think in regards to some of the questions I asked and what they voted on.
How wrong they are.
That was interesting. So check us out on Instagram. I'm at jellybagel_AK.
And I am.
My. Were you slow boating in here to the end?
Bagel _AK.
He's at Bacon Bagel.
I had to make it dramatic pause.
At Bacon Bagel.
I need to get better about posting more often. I don't post as often as I desire, but I'll say this: when I do, it's impactful and profound.
It really is.
So don't miss it.
Also entertaining.
It's always educational I didn't need to know that way.
Oh my goodness. If you are currently listening on your favorite podcast app, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review, giving us 5 stars, however your app does it. Okay? Let us know if you like it, even if you don't like it. But maybe if you don't like it, message us on Instagram first and then maybe we can figure it out. If
that's how reviews work.
Yeah, if you're listening on a podcast, you can also go check out our YouTube channel, Entrepreneur. We also have a couple of videos that aren't related to podcasts and are super helpful in regards to certain business things and shipping things as well. If you're watching on YouTube, go check us out on your favorite podcast app if you're interested. And I think that wraps it up.
Right on. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Boom.